Welcome back to the African Homestead. Today I want to talk about the things I had to consider, the design elements, when putting together the plan for my house. Now, as I was putting this plan together, one book was critical in helping me think through all of the elements that I needed to consider in this design, and it's called The Barefoot Architect. It has sections specific to, depending on where you live, if you live in the tropics versus the desert versus northern location, southern location. It has topics for all of those areas. Now, in our hot, rainy, tropical location, two design elements that are critically important to our family are light and ventilation. Because we're living in an off-grid setup, the light is very important to have natural light in the room, so we don't need to turn on our lights during the day. Even though we run LED lights throughout the house that use a minimal amount of watts, it's still important to allow the batteries time, especially like this time of year when it's raining and overcast nearly every day. You have to let those batteries recharge as the sun is up so that you have the capacity you need at night. Ventilation is also important. Now, this time of year, it's not too bad during the day. It'll be in the mid and upper 80s during the day. Usually, as there is right now, there's a light breeze. When it's overcast and rainy, it's really comfortable. I don't even break a sweat through a lot of the rainy season unless I'm really working. But it's nice to have a cool breeze passing through the house, especially if you're cooking or if you have the oven on, just to help get that heat out of the house. And so in the dry season, it's really, really important. And actually, we get less wind in the dry season than we do in the rainy season. And so any little breeze that we can catch, we want to do that. Now, one of the hard decisions that we had to make with this house that we just prioritized privacy and security over comfort, and that was with the installation of windows. And by windows, I mean the actual sliding glass windows. The original plan was we weren't going to have AC. We started putting this together about 5 or 6 years ago. And the original one was we were going to have wide open windows with window bars and screens to keep the bugs out, but there was not going to be any panes of glass. And so the breeze would be able to come and go freely. And so the downside of having the sliding glass windows is basically when they're closed, you don't have any ventilation. We only close them usually when we're turning the AC on. And when they're open, you only have 50% of the opening actually being able to pass air through. Another design consideration that was important to me was being able to keep the windows open even when there's a strong breeze and a heavy rain. And that's not uncommon here at the beginning of the end of the rainy season, that a strong breeze will come in with rain. And so with the long eaves hanging over, in fact, I think from the wall to the edge of the eave is about 6 feet. That allows the breeze to come in. We don't have to close our windows every time it starts raining. And so we put a hipped roof all the way around this house. So we have eaves on all 4 sides. And I can't remember a single time where the wind was so strong that it actually blew rain in. Now, we've had some mist come in through the screens, but it's just not been an issue, which I really appreciate. Another consideration we had in the design in regard to the eaves is we wanted them to hang out far enough that it wouldn't allow the rain to blow in, but we needed them high enough that it allowed the light to come in, but we wanted them low enough that during the heat of the day, it kept the sun off the walls and out of the windows. And so I actually did some measurements as we were building the house and deciding how high to have the walls, how low to have the roof, how long it should hang over, and did some study as we were building it, and found out that with this angle of roof and this distance of eave from the wall and all of that put together, that no sun will touch inside the house on the floor until about 4:30 in the afternoon. And so by that time, the sun is losing a lot of its intensity. Now, one thing that we've added is, as you can see, is we built a trellis, kind of an arbor, where we're growing passion fruit vine. We put that up as a test to help keep out some of that afternoon sun and afternoon heat, to keep the wall a little bit cooler. And that's been successful, though it's been a little bit too successful in that it created a ton of shade. And so we built that out of bamboo. And the next time we're going to build it out of a really good hardwood that's termite proof, that's rot proof. And we're going to move it a little bit higher in elevation, a little bit further from the house. So it'll block that 4:30 to say 5:30, 6 o'clock sun from coming in, but it still will allow a lot of light to come in the house. Now, both of the bedrooms that we built are on the corners of the house. One behind me on the front corner of the house and the other one behind me on the back corner of the house. And being on the corner allowed us to put a big window in each of the two corner walls, which allows for very nice cross ventilation. And then also as air passes through the house, no matter what direction, if it's blowing from the east, the south, or the north, or the west, so we're gonna have some air movement going through the house and through the bedrooms. Another thing that we always loved to have when we lived in the States was a nice front porch. And so in this case, we built a nice sized front porch. We have rooms for a porch swing and room for chairs if we have company there. We're able to sit out in the evening, and again, to be shaded by that passion fruit vine has been a great, great addition. Now, one thing that we love about our farm in Kansas is we have a porch on the west side of the house. And so that was important to us because we love to watch the sunset. And here, with the way we've cut the bush back a little bit, we have some great views of the sunset. And so in the evening, after the hottest sun is gone and it's cooling off, we're able to sit out on this porch and enjoy the birds as they sing and get ready for the night and watch the sun go down. Another design consideration that has turned out to be so important in our morning routine is that we built the bedrooms on the east side of the house. And so if you build them on the west side, a lot of times those rooms are going to be hot when it's time to go to bed. And even with air conditioning, they're more difficult to cool off. And so having them on the east side, the rooms are already cooled off, and that's been great. Another thing that's nice about that is that here in the tropics, we live just north of the equator. And so that means that our days are roughly 12 hours long, and we have sun up around 7 a.m. and sundown about 7 p.m. every day year round. It'll shift about 30 minutes throughout the year, but that's it. And so every morning about the same time, it gets light outside, and it just helps us with our morning routine, having that rhythm every morning of waking up. Even when we were building this house, even before we were building it, I had a vision of it being on a hilltop overlooking a pasture where in the future I'm going to have cattle and sheep and other livestock, and it's just going to be beautiful, and we'll be able to sit out here and watch them mill around and eat and just enjoy life. And so at that time I decided, okay, we want the house on a hilltop but on the edge of a slope so that we could overlook this pasture. And that dream is a reality now, except for the cows. We got to have cows, but those are going to be coming next year. But it's been fantastic being able to just see all of these things come together. Another decision that we had to make was regarding the materials that we're going to use to build the house. Generally in Liberia, if you're in a developed area of the country, you're going to use cinder blocks. And most of these cinder blocks, they're just called cement blocks, and they're made by hand. They'll have a mold, they'll shovel the mixture of cement and sand in there, they'll kind of compact it with a shovel, turn it over, flip it out. They're not that strong. There's a few companies that use basically it's rock dust. There's a granite they have here, and one of the byproducts is this dust. And so it makes a very strong block, and they have a compression machine. And so it's going to be more along the lines of what strength-wise a cinder block that you buy in the States. And so our main foundation from the footers up to the above the ground level, up to the basically grade where we poured the floor, is those really strong cinder blocks. And then from there up, we actually opted not to go with the weaker blocks, because the strong cinder blocks, they're about $1 a piece. The weaker handmade cement blocks are about 50 cents a piece. And what we went with are actually traditional dirt brick. And those are handmade in a wooden mold, and they're about 5 cents a piece. And so we saved thousands and thousands of dollars on using dirt brick. But the main decision wasn't with the price, even though that was a nice bonus. The main decision was with what it offered us. And some of the benefits it offered is that it's more thermally stable. And so what that means is that it heats up slower, it cools down slower, And so if we can keep the walls away from the sun, they don't heat up that much. So in the evening and through the night, they're not emitting that heat that has been built up during the day. And so they're very stable. It helps keep the house cool all day long and stable in temperature. Another element, in addition to the price, is that they're bulletproof. And in a post-war country, it's interesting the number of people that think that, well, that's actually a very important element. And so if we use the locally made cement blocks, they're not strong enough to withstand a gunshot. And so with these, they are. In addition, the cement blocks, they have to be made off-site, or if we make them on site, we have to haul all the materials here. So we have to buy sand from somewhere, bring them on site. We have to buy cement, which is an hour and a half away from here, to be able to buy cement in Monrovia and haul them onto the site and do all the work here. Where the dirt bricks are actually made on site, local materials, they don't have any additives. Sometimes people will add straw or add cement to it to help with the strength, but in this area, they don't do that. In this part of Africa, that's not normal, and they're plenty strong, because once you put the stucco finish on it, they call it plastering here, once that's on, they're strong, they're sealed up, and the key is then keep a good roof on the house. One other decision we had to make was regarding the pitch of the roof on the house. We found from experience that if the roof pitch is too flat, you deal with a lot more leaks. It just isn't a major issue, especially during heavy downpours. If the pitch of the roof is too steep, you're spending a lot of money on wood, and you're spending a lot more money on zinc on the roofing material. And so that we didn't really think was a good idea. So we were able to find what we feel is a good medium place. We haven't had any major leaks in the roof, which has been nice. We've been in it for 3 years now. And during heavy rainfalls, it just rolls off really nice. And so I think we ended up with a nice balance in that decision. And now we come to the last big decision, as some may say, the most important decision that we had to make when putting this house together, and that was the kitchen design. We were very, very fortunate to have our friend Joe come to Liberia 2 times as we were building the house. First, when we were putting the walls up, even before the roof was on, he came and built all the cabinets for the kitchen. We used local materials to do this, and they turned out amazing. The second time he came over was shortly before us moving into the house, and that was to do the installation. And we worked together on that project, and we'll be eternally thankful to him for helping us with this. It's turned out to be a beautiful and wonderful and very usable, practical kitchen. So those were the major design considerations and decisions that we had to make when putting together the plans for this house and getting it built here in Liberia. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Have a great day. See you next time.